Okay, Geoff, so you talked about betting. Well, you bet Dancing Brave. And your career basically started because of Prince Monolulu's tips. So how big a part of your life has betting been throughout your career? You know, but it supplemented your income or?
Yeah, I've always been interested. I mean, as I say, when I was at school, I was the only one interested in horse racing, really. So I became the school bookie, and I used to take bets on anything really. As I say, Miss World, but around Derby time, the last year I was at this secondary school, it was the Derby was coming up, and it was in 1964. It was Santa Claus's Derby, and everyone was having a bet, and they were all back in Santa Claus with me. And I was in technical drawing, I remember, for the lesson. I couldn't stand technical drawing. I mean, I was useless at it, and I still am useless. Can't even change a fuse. My wife does all that. I mean, I got thrown out of woodwork for using a chisel as a screwdriver. I got thrown out of science because at Bunsen burner I nearly caught the whole place alight. And technical drawing, I was a disaster on that. And well, I think I did actually put, well, a few of us put gunpowder and a dead wasp into the Mr. Wilkinson's pipe, and so we had fun like that. But anyway, this day Wilkinson's technical drawing lesson was the last lesson just before the Derby, and my house with my masonette we lived with my mum and dad was just across the fence from the school. So when it got to about 10 minutes before the Derby off time, I asked if I could go to the loo, and he said, "Yeah, be quick, be quick." So I just went out straight into the playground, over the fence, climbed over the fence, got in. My mum knew my battle plan, and she had the telly on, and I watched the Derby, and because it was a 15-weight favourite, I think, that day. And Santa Claus was 6-4 one. He was a short price favourite anyway, and but he was ridden by Scobie Boosley, a great jockey from Australia, but he was 50 years old at the time, and so I thought I'll take a chance on him anyway. But he was brilliant, and that was the one time that Santa Claus came too early in the year for me that day. It should have been at Christmas, but he came back, and I walked into walked back in, and I said to Mum, I better go back, climb back over the fence, got back in. Teacher gave me a dodgy look, and I said, "Funny tummy, sir, sorry, funny tummy," and everyone said, "What one? What one?" And I just said, "Don't ask." And they knew straight away that they'd won. So that was a big thing. That was it was I just that was being the layer, but more so I was the punter. I was just I did I've had some good wins over the years. I mean, probably done better than George Washington when it won the 2,000 guineas.
Can you just show us your book a minute? Because if anybody interested, your book's still available there.
Yeah.
And there's some good stories in there, especially about quite a few, anti-post touches and stuff.
Yeah.
So would your punting successes have come from you ferreting the form book, or was it your growing number of contacts that would sort of mark your card?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I was a bad judge on, so I would get some from the form, but lots of them were from from the first time I ever went to met Aidan O'Brien. Well, if you go back before Aidan O'Brien, Mike Dillon actually got me into Ballydoyle with Vincent O'Brien. I mean, and to go to Ballydoyle when Vincent was there, and the year of Nijinsky and Survivor and Alleged. I mean, that was magical. I spent 2 or 3 years with Vincent. I mean, every spring I used to go over there and he'd talk about his horses, and he was an absolute genius, and they were great. And I remember Alleged was a horse that Mike Dillon and I backed for the Leisure at 8-1. Started 7-4 on, and because after it won at York, and 8-1 we were on, and this horse everyone wanted it to win apart from the Royalists, because the Queen had Dunfermline, of course, and Leicester, he just didn't seem to get it right that day. I mean, everyone says how Dunfermline beat Alleged on merit, and Willie Carson, I know he's a big pal of mine, Willie, he's convinced it was, but Vincent wasn't that impressed. He doesn't take Leicester on many times, but he said to me it wasn't his best effort.
Okay, now you mentioned the Queen there, and you mentioned a story about the Queen before you started talking. Can I drop that on you? Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, it was I used to, after life packed up in 1998, various people helped me out, and Richard Hannon asked me to give him a hand before he had a website that was, but he'd give me a hand placing his horses. So I used to look at the racing calendar and place his horses, and go and see him, and once a fortnight or something, sit in the van with him and go see the gallops. And one day we were in a van, and the phone rang, and on his mobile, and they said, "Buckingham Palace here, sir, and Her Majesty ready to talk to you." So he looked across at me. He just went like, "Zip it." So I just listened, and the Queen, she was such a knowledgeable lady. I thought she's wonderful, and he was telling about her filly that had run the previous day, and Richard said, "She ran really well, ma'am. I was delighted to the way she shaped, and she had a lot of promise, and I think an extra furlong would be just right for her." And the Queen said, "Do you think so, Richard? If you look at the pedigree, there's a lot of speed there. I wouldn't be in a hurry to move her up in distance." And so Richard said, "Well, you're the boss, ma'am. If you think we'll stay at 6." So they stayed at 6, and she bolted up next time over the 6 furlongs.
Who, I mean, with these trainers, and who has impressed you the most as a trainer and in personality? I'm assuming they could be the same person or different people, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, trainer. John Gosden's my favourite trainer. I mean, Aidan O'Brien, obviously, we the first time I ever met Aidan was with Mike Dillon. We went over for the Irish to 2,000 guineas. Desert King won it, and the following day, Mike said to me, the Sunday was going to be a Irish 1,000 guineas, and Mike said to me, we're gonna have breakfast with Aidan O'Brien and his wife Anne Marie, just you and I. So I'd never met Aidan before, and so I mean I was seeing him with Istaprac, because when he was doing that a jumper, but as a flat trainer, and he was absolutely brilliant. And all he wanted to do that day, I mean, he just won the Irish 2,000 guineas with Desert King, and he had one favourite, I think, for the Irish 1,000. But all he wanted to talk about was a 2-year-old that was. He said the people at Balor have allegedly not seen any horse work like as brilliantly as this since the days of Nijinsky. So he said, and it's running today, that day. King of Kings it was called, and. So it was odds on that day, he said, but Mike Dillon said, whatever it goes after, whatever price I give you after the if you can get bigger after the race, whatever price I give you for next year's guineas, you want to be on. So after the race, I think it was King of Kings. They went. Dillon went 16-1 for next year's guineas. I mean, remember, this is in 11 months in advance, and Hills went 20, and Coles, there was a new guy from, I think it was Simon Clare or Rob Hartner, one of them. He went 33, but then he saw Hills were going 20, so he cut it to 25. So Mike Dillon was there with Jim McGrath from Timeform, pretty shrewd judge Jim as well. So they filled their boots, and I filled mine as well, but my smaller boots that they've got, punting wise. But I rang the wife and said, I'll back this horse next year. If it wins, I'll buy you a new car. So, and it all worked out brilliant. King of Kings was not an easy horse. Won 4 out of 5 as a 2-year-old, but Aidan worked him. He knew him inside out, and he won the guineas in style. He won that 2-year-old race by 8 lengths, and he was a superstar really. So she got herself a new car. But I rang her up from the car to tell her the news that this horse has won. And or from Newmarket rather, and she said, "What horse?" And she's completely forgotten the bet. But anyway, she got the car.
I'm interested about the ante-post market there, because by the sound of it, they were prepared to take a few quid. I mean, these days, pretty much dead in the water these days, isn't it? But what sort of money could you get on ante-post at those sort of prices?
Yes, well, these days. I mean, I remember I backed Henry the Navigator for the guineas after the Coventry Stakes at Royal Ascot. I backed Denman for the Gold Cup after it won the Sun Alliance at 10-1, and I think either 12-1 for Henry Navigator, 100 weight, and 10-1 for Denman. But nowadays, when a horse wins those sort of races, that it'd be half that. The race is a year away, and they're going so short nowadays. It just seems totally different. I mean, I remember when being in Newmarket one day for the guineas when Footsteps in the Sand was won the 2,000 guineas for Coolmore, and that evening I stayed with Tony Ellis, who used to be at Warren Hill, and I stayed with Tony, and we went down to his local pub, and I saw in the restaurant I could see there was John Magnier. He was with all the Coolmore team, and when he finished his meal, he called me over. He said, "Geoff, come and have a drink." So, I'd met him a few times, John, and Tony didn't know him, and Tony was with some of his mates. So I said, "Tony, I'll be back in. I'll see you back here in half hour. So I'm going to have a drink with John." So we went and had some really good red wine, and just John and I. And John was really sympathetic about me losing my job on the Sporting Life, like everyone else did. And he said to me, "We got a horse running tomorrow." He said, "It's called George Washington." And he said, "This horse," he said, "he's something special." But he said, Aidan and all the lads there, they really, they've seen this horse could be a superstar. He says, "Don't worry about him tomorrow." He said, "It'll be short, and we're only bringing him over because the ground in Ireland is so bad." So he said, "Whatever he does tomorrow, he'll improve." So I said, so anyway, I was staying with Tony, and I had a chat to a few people, and Ed Prosser, who used to work with Raceform, and various other places. And anyway, Ed tried to get on. Every bookmaker who rang up, as soon as they found out who trained him and who owned him, it's 12-1. So he hadn't run yet. He hadn't even run. So it was a ridiculous price. So anyway, Ed Prosser got on the tote, and he said, "Oh, 50-1. I had 50-1 with for next year's guineas." He said, "But I had 40 quid on." So I said, "All right, fine." So he said, so I said, "Well, can you ring them back and ask them if there's any more?" So we rang them back again, and he said, "Oh, Mr. Prosser, yeah, I see you had £40 on that. Would you like a little bit more?" So he said, "Yeah." He said, "I would, because he said, can I have £500 on 50-1?" So, because first of all, John Magnier said to me, going back, in the pub, "You got to back this horse," he said, and he said, "Between us, we'll have a fun bet." And John said, "Why don't we have a 66,000 to 2, if you can get 33?" So I said, "I don't think we'll get 33, John, but I said, I'll do my best." As I say, when it turned out that we suddenly could get 50-1, so I said, "See if we can get." I said to John, because the horse ran okay, came in for third on as a 2-year-old, but the ground was bad, and he said, "Don't worry about that." So when he went, Ed Prosser went back, and they said, 50-1. He said, "I'll have to check that. I'll have to check where you can have that." So he said, he came back. He said, "Yeah, you can have that bet, 50 monkeys." But he said, "You have to, on your account, it'll pay. You have to pay them straight away," which you didn't have to do in the old days. So I said, "That's no problem." I said to Ed, "That's no problem," because I know John Magnier was sound. So
He's good for it.
yeah, exactly. So then so it ended up winning. I got beat that day, and but it was a fruitcake of a horse. I mean, it wouldn't even go for it wouldn't even Ascot that once it would be reversed through the tunnel because it was up. But it was a really good horse, and I know Michael Tabor very rarely bets ante-post, and he wouldn't go in. He always bets on the day. And I saw suddenly I went to Newmarket with my wife on Guineas Day, and suddenly looked up, and it was 5-2, 9-4, 2-1, 7-4, 13-8, 6-4. I said to my wife, "This is one," and Kieran Fallon wrote it, and it gave it one crack and it took off. I mean, it was a superstar. Sadly, it didn't live too long, but that was a great day, George Washington. But the thing is, the sting in the tail at the end, when Ed Prosser got the money, 25 grand, 12.5 grand each, they actually said to him, they sent him a cheque for 1,250 quid, and he said, "You took SP," and he said, "I didn't take SP." He said, "We took 50-1 11 months ago," and he said, "Why would I possibly take SP 11 months in advance?" So then in the end they got on, so they looked back on the bet, but the tote wanted to actually pay him out 11. But I don't think I would have told John Magnier we've been returned 6-4, John. I don't think it would have gone down too well, Simon.